There's no sports league unlike it anywhere in the world, where cartoons and football come together. This is the United States Cartoon Football League, celebrating its 40th anniversary.
Свечей, твоя грация, ориентиры страстей, острый бритвый взгляд, ясней, чем кристалл, и все говорят, ты тверже, чем металл.
И вкус ночи. Fashion girl.
Транслируют сны, модели любви. В твоей красоте 500 КПД, и все мужчины, знай, стоят в режиме стендбай. Всему вопреки, сверкай и люби, свети за окном своим врагам назло.
И вкус ночи. Fashion girl.
Транслируют сны, модели любви.
Greetings, cartoon and football fans, and especially fans of literary fiction. This is Bob Mozark of the USCFL Network. Starting today, we will rate and review stories from the 3 books written by Robbie Graham, his creation and the world's newest superheroine, Fashion Girl. Here's how the contest works. Football scoring will once again be used. The scores we give will be done by a percentage rate. 120 points is the maximum score, and 100% will be the maximum percentage. There will also be a 5-minute excerpt courtesy of Alexa, the Amazon app. In addition, Robbie will give you the backstory for each of the style chicks and how they came to be. After a brief pause, we will begin with round 1 of the Adventures of Fashion Girl, fighting crime with style.
Standing there, all alone, staring at that silly cell phone, all dressed up, no place to go. Hey baby, come to my show. Fashion girl, take me away. Fashion girl, to another place.
The Adventures of Fashion Girl, Story 1, The Joker Queen. Chapter 1. Fashion Girl is surprised by a visit from Batman. He informs her that he has followed the Joker to her hometown, Colonia, to meet with Fashion Girl's nemesis, the Prom Queen. The Joker has a plan to steal the world's oil supplies, but he needs the financial resources of the Prom Queen to enact his plans. Fashion Girl tells her allies that Batman has been the coordinator of a number of tests given to Fashion Girl's mother, Daphne Blake, to see if she was worthy to join the superheroes of the world. Daphne Blake, under the mentorship of She-Ra, had been tested by many of the different superheroes. Fashion Girls explains that just as she inherited Fashion Girl's mantle, the current Prom Queen assumed the role from her sister, the original Prom Queen. Chapter 2. Batman and Fashion Girl decide to get a good night's sleep before launching their attack on the Prom Queen's lair the next morning. While they sleep, the rest of Fashion Girl's allies arrive from all over the world. They prepare everything for tomorrow's attack. One of their most important moves was to improve the stealth technology in the Glammobile, Fashion Girl's air, land, and sea means of transportation. Chapter 3. Batman and Fashion Girl use the Glammobile to fly out to the offshore island headquarters of the Prom Queen. They use a grapnel and line to climb up a cliff face. Joker and Prom Queen let them enter the lair and then send waves of their minions to fight the two heroes. Meanwhile, Fashion Girl's allies launch a secondary attack. When Fashion Girl and Batman finally come face to face with the two supervillains, Joker treacherously betrays Prom Queen and throws her off their platform, breaking her leg. Fashion Girl eventually defeats the Joker in battle, and the booby trap he installed is deactivated at the last minute. The Prom Queen decides to repent and reform her character to the dismay of her minions. Chapter 4. The Prom Queen convinces Fashion Girl of her intention to reform, and Fashion Girl explains to her how many of her allies had gone through their own reformations before becoming members of the Style Chicks. Batman explains to Fashion Girl that he had been holding back during the attack to test her abilities, the same way that her mother, Daphne Blake, had been tested years before. Fashion Girl agrees to fill in as Batgirl for the crippled Barbara Gordon as needed until Batman is able to find a full-time replacement. Later, after the Prom Queen, now known by her real name Sandy, has healed, Fashion Girl comes to pick her up and take her back to the Mystique Boutique, Fashion Girl's headquarters. Fashion Girl helps Sandy to start her reformation. Chapter 5. Sandy's recovery and reformation continue apace. Fashion Girl and her allies are made members of the Justice League. Fashion Girl gets another call for help from Batman as all of his arch enemies have united in a last-ditch effort to stop him. Fashion Girl spends several months in Gotham City helping Batman. Eventually, she is able to return to Colonia. Chapter 6. As Sandy's reformation is nearly finished, she asks Fashion Girl for help in getting visitation rights to her children restored. Sandy's ex-husband at first wants nothing to do with Sandy, but Fashion Girl convinces him that Sandy is no longer the evil person that she used to be, and the family court accepts that Sandy should be allowed access to her children again. Meanwhile, Batman offers Sandy a chance to become one of his allies. We will now take a brief pause before returning for the wrap-up and score for this week's story.
So many prisoners the police had to transport back to the mainland, so they chartered a plane to take them back and face justice. One by one, they all had their heads lowered, thoroughly beaten and handcuffed. A medical helicopter also arrived to transport the prom queen to the hospital. 2 men carefully lifted the prom queen onto a stretcher and started wheeling her out of the compound to the front door and ramp Penny made earlier. Before she left the compound, she asked the men to stop for a moment. She took one last look around at her prized artwork and furnishings, now some of them riddled with bullet holes. She figured that it would be the last time she would ever see any of it again. What's more, she wanted to talk with Fashion Girl and called her over. Fashion Girl came over and said, "What is it, prom queen?" "No, let me guess, the truce is over and once you're out of the hospital, you'll be coming back more powerful than ever, right?" The prom queen replied, "No, Fashion Girl, I want to make the truce I called with you permanent." Fashion Girl in shock said, "What?" The prom queen continued, "That's right, Fashion Girl. With what the Joker said to me, pushing me off that platform and breaking my leg made me think. While Macy was bandaging my leg, I did a lot of thinking, and I made an important decision. I decided that my days as a villain are over with for good. I'll tell you this much, I'll never look at a Joker in a deck of playing cards quite the same way again." Still stunned, Fashion Girl said, "You're giving up just like that?" The prom queen continued, "Yes, I'm done being a villain. Fashion Girl, I became the prom queen after my sister died in prison. For years I blamed your mother for this. But I now realize that my sister deserved to go to prison to what she did to those young girls by disfiguring their faces with acid. Your mother did what anyone who upholds the law would have done, bring her to justice. The people I should have blamed for this were those 2 actresses who were too drunk to drive and T-boned the car my sister was riding in. What's more, I've taken it out on you. You probably weren't even born yet at that time. It's not your fault for what happened to my sister. The parents of the girls she ruined their lives over sued the pants off of her and she lost everything. She died in prison either by getting into a fight with another inmate, or she was stabbed in the back, or had her throat cut while she slept. Before I took my sister's place, I was happily married. I had a good paying job and 3 great kids. I had it all, and I gave it all up to get revenge for my sister's death. As a result, my husband divorced me, I lost my job, and I lost custody of my kids with no visitation rights. And all for a misguided belief. As for your mother, I am genuinely sorry for what happened to her, but I didn't have her killed. My sister's henchmen did it all on their own. How old were you when she died?" Fashion Girl said, "I was 4 when she died. I have vague memories of her, but she has always been on my mind ever since." The prom queen continued, "I know how you feel. Not only did I lose custody of my kids with no visitation rights, I wasn't allowed to mail, email, or call them. But they emailed me in secret. I know all that they have done since my divorce. My eldest son is about your age. He just graduated from college in the spring. My youngest son will be a senior in high school in the fall, and my daughter will be a freshman in high school. I missed them growing up. I was a soccer mom. I took my son to practice and watched him play. My other son played Little League Baseball, and I also saw him play. And I took my daughter to ballet class and she took piano lessons." Fashion Girl said, "Sounds like you were a good person and a good mother. Prom queen, If you're truly sincere about changing your ways, my friends and I will help you. The prom queen took the crown off her head and threw it as hard as she could to the floor and continued, "First off, fashion girl, don't call me the prom queen anymore. I have a real first name. My real name is Sandra Benson Bates. Call me Sandy if you like." Fashion girl said, "Okay, Sandy, that will take some getting used to. If you have to go to trial, I'll testify on your behalf, and I will ask the judge to give you some leniency and give you probation instead of jail time." Sandy replied, "You would do that for me?" Fashion girl said, "Yes. And as long as you don't go back to your evil ways, you will have 15 of the best friends you could ever have." Sandy put her hand in Fashion Girl's and replied, "From now on, Fashion Girl, when we next meet, it will be as friends. But I must offer a friendly warning, if Belle Kay is ever released from prison, she'll come after the both of us. She's more evil than I ever was." Fashion Girl said, "If that does happen, I'll be ready and waiting for her." The men got impatient and one of them said, "Okay, ladies, it's time for us to go." Sandy continued, "Fashion Girl, thank you again and God bless you. Let's go, boys." As everyone saw the men put the prom queen, Sandy, into the helicopter, and watched it fly away toward the mainland, Fashion Girl is right, that will take some getting used to. Everyone was in shock and silence. Penny stepped up and asked, "Boss, do you believe everything she told you? Is she really going to change her ways? Or did she say all that to play on your sympathies?" Fashion Girl answered, "I don't need Wonder Woman's lasso to know when someone is speaking the truth. I believe her with all my heart, and I'm willing to give her a fair chance to help her. We all saw what happened. The way the Joker double-crossed her, him pushing her off that platform and her breaking her leg. Plus the fact she took her crown off and threw it to the ground. No, Penny, I believe she wasn't playing with my sympathies."
And now, the backstory for Fashion Girl. Fashion Girl was born Daphne Elizabeth Jones in 1986 in New Orleans. She is the fictional daughter of Fred Jones and Daphne Blake, the original Fashion Girl. She knew of her parents' legacy solving mysteries around the world. After her mother was killed in an ambush in 1991, her father moved her and her brother Fred Jr. back to California. She grew up not knowing the legacy that was waiting for her when she turned 18. Her childhood, for the most part, was normal. In high school, she was the most popular girl in school. Head cheerleader, class president, captain of the debate team, and valedictorian. On her 18th birthday, she was approached by Brenda Adams Green, the original Tiffany, Chrissy James, the original Penny Dillard, and Maria Sanchez, the original Zara. They told Daphne of the fabulous heritage she was about to inherit. They presented her with her mother's costume, a pair of power bracelets, and the Sword of Style, and became the new Fashion Girl. Fashion Girl became a model at 21 and started traveling around the world doing photo shoots, modeling gigs, and fashion shows. She got to keep anything she ever modeled in, which in some cases helped her to become a mistress of disguise. Shortly after the prom queen renounced her villainy, she married her eldest son Greg and had 2 kids by him. She had a daughter she also named Daphne to honor her grandmother. When this daughter turns 18, she will take her mother's place. And as soon as she has a daughter, that daughter will inherit her mother's role. Fashion Girl also made her sister-in-law Cindy a style chick and named her Sephora, for whom I'll talk about in later rounds. Whether she walks the runways of the world or stopping crime wherever she is, Fashion Girl has rightfully earned her title as the stylish crime fighter. It is my hope that one day Fashion Girl will be mentioned in the same breath as other heroines that have come before her. Any heroine that comes after her, I hope they will look upon Fashion Girl for advice and moral support.
Guess who's back? 45 music.
detalle. She's a fashion girl, le gusta ropa cara y diamante, cartera y marca para lucir elegante, pero le falta algo bien importante, la mente no es brillante.
She's a fashion girl, le gusta ropa cara y diamante, luciendo como una dama interesante, pero le falta lo más importante,
que no es brillante.
pendiente a la moda, que aunque no le pegue, de la farándula revistas se las copia todas, con los biles atrasados, tarjeta en bancarrota, but she's a fashion girl. Ella dice que...
Wrap up. This story is a good introduction to Fashion Girl and her allies, the Style Chicks, the Fat Cats, and the Alien Cosmo Girls. It explains the backstory of Fashion Girl and how she has inherited the role from her mother, the late Daphne Blake. Fashion Girl proves her worth to Batman and is invited to join the Justice League. She is also responsible for the reformation of her arch-enemy, the former prom queen. I give this story an 8 as a solid start to the series. As always, viewers are invited to submit their own reviews and scores. The book, The Adventures of Fashion Girl by Robbie Graham, is available on Amazon.com. Tune in next week for another Fashion Girl story review. This is Bob Mozart of the USCFL Network signing off.
Bonjour, madame, j'aimerais celle-ci en 37, s'il vous plaît. I like bikinis, so I go to Milano, and I speak Italiano. Questo profumo, il odore